Hello, I'm Brian, and I am the Theoretical Gamer. Now, this is another review of a game that you may or may not have heard of. Its heyday was like in the 90s, and it had a few supplements throughout the 2000s. So I mean, it's still available. You can get it, I think, through the original Atlas Games website, or you can also you can download PDFs through Steve Jackson Games' E23 site. This game is called Feng Shui, the role-playing game. I know what you're thinking. You may have heard of this game, but if you're not, you're thinking, wait a minute, isn't Feng Shui that thing where like new agey types come into your house and rearrange the furniture and put mirrors in there or something to arrange the chi to bring you good fortune? Yes, it is. But imagine this. If you can rearrange the furniture in your house and alter the chi of your living environment to bring you good fortune, well, wouldn't you do so? And therefore, what if in the natural world, there are certain regions or there are certain areas that had natural feng shui, and that if you were the owner of those areas, you would get a great deal of good fortune. You would get prosperity, you would get good health, you'd get pussy, or whatever equivalent you're into. You would get everything you wanted. And if you owned several of these places, well, you'd be even more awesome. And if you owned all the best feng shui sites in the world, you'd rule the world. That's what feng shui is all about. Now, underneath this rather absurd premise is an actually serious game. And if you think about it, if there are sites that if you own them, you control the chi of the world and can pretty much set world policy, and then there are also these secret societies that either own these sites or are trying to get these sites, well, you've got the makings of a good behind-the-scenes secret war. It's not a humorous game. It takes itself. I mean, it's written in a fairly lighthearted manner, but it's actually meant to be played pretty straight and pretty serious. It is modeled after Hong Kong-style action movies, which had, I think, their heyday back in the 90s. You had your Jackie Chan, your Chow Yun-fat, your Michelle Yeoh, all of those icons that came out of the 90s from Hong Kong. Feng Shui was originally a card game called Shadow Fist. I won't say it was originally a card game because the role-playing game came out about a year after the card game itself. And I looked it up. The card game, which I never got into, is still being produced. It was originally a collectible card game along the lines of Magic the Gathering, though I think the latest edition is a fixed deck style card game. But the setting of the card game and the role-playing game are the same. They are set in the same universe. Now, the Feng Shui universe is centered around Hong Kong. In fact, there's a city supplement called Blowing Up Hong Kong. That the setting itself is, they even say that it is really designed to have all sorts of different characters from different backgrounds and different genres and settings kicking ass in the same game. The idea is that there are all these secret portals throughout the world that you can enter, and it goes into this netherworld, and you can wander through this timeless netherworld that operates on its own timeline and come out in another time period. Right? Now, at any given time, there are only maybe 4 time periods available. And at the current time, the 4 time zones that are available are 69 AD, so you can have characters from ancient China, which you have wizards and monsters and all sorts of high magic. 1850, which was the time where you can get Shaolin monks and that kind of stuff. Modern day, which you get all kind, you know what modern day is, you get all kinds of cool stuff. And 2056. 2056 is an odd future, this weird dystopian future in which the world, with a one-world government running everything, and it's like the kind of thing that if you speak out too loudly against the government, you're quietly disappeared. And magic has come back in a rather gruesome way. It's a kind of weird techno-organic cyborging, which has a very gruesome feel, and you're going to look at it and say, oh, cool, and then you'll look at the actual powers, and they're not that interesting, and they're not that good or powerful. But we'll get to that in a second. Effectively, the setting is just a way that you can have an ancient sorcerer and a pistol-packing assassin in the same game. So it's there. Let me give you a quick rundown of how it works. It's the character generation is pretty much like Talislanta 4th edition, like what I said in my previous review. It is template based, which is nice because you choose a template and tweak it a little and hit the ground running. So you can have the maverick cop, you can have the ninja, you can have the martial artist, you can have the thief. The thief is not like the D&D grungy thief. It's like the beautiful international diamond thief who leaves a single white glove. You know, an awesome thief. All the characters start off pretty awesome. You don't start off as like a piddly little first level and then work your way up. This is action movie role playing. You start off badass and get slightly more badass as time goes on. Your four basic attributes are body, chi, mind, and reflexes. And the average person starts off with 5055 respectively. So and that's tweaked according to what template you have. So obviously some are going to have higher mind, some are going to have higher reflexes or body, and some of them let you, say add however many points you want. More important than the basic attributes are the skills. The skills add to because they'll start you off. It'll say it doesn't matter what your it's like if you're a martial artist, it doesn't really matter what your reflexes are. It will start you off with a skill level of 15 in martial arts, and you can't buy that up because it's your primary skill. It is the focus skill, and they basically give you a totally kick-ass level at it and say, okay, yeah, be satisfied. And any bonuses that you add to skills are meant to round you out. Like I said, if you tend to have, if you are like a specialist, like a killer who specializes in guns, a sorcerer who specializes in sorcery, a martial artist who specializes in martial arts, you'll probably have like a 15 in that stat or in that skill. And to put it into value is like someone with a 5 is as good as the normal person. 7 is slightly above average. You get up to 11 is highly qualified. 13 is top notch, and 15 is totally kick-ass. So your characters start off as badasses, and you're supposed to be because you're action heroes. What do? Well, you team up and you fight bad guys. And there are various factions that rule each juncture, like the 69 AD, all the Feng Shui sites in ancient China, 69 AD, are ruled by most of them are ruled by a secret cabal of eunuch sorcerers called the Eaters of the Lotus, and they're the ones who secretly are masters of the world. 1850 and the modern day are both ruled by a group called the Ascended, which are, believe it or not, this is a Chinese myth. If you're Chinese, you'll probably know all about this. Americans are less familiar. But it's the concept of animals that have, through various means, cheated the path of reincarnation and karma and transformed themselves into human beings. So the Shaolin monks in 1850 hate these guys. They see them as fugitives from karma and want to, kill them or force them to go back into their animal forms. So, and basically, secret cabals of these transformed animals rule two junctures, 1850 and modern day. And of course, you can play a transformed animal, and it gives you all a list of types of animals you can play. You can play a cockroach, or you can play there's a dragon, there's also an elephant, all sorts of, like, lists of all sorts, and each one gives you different powers. Okay, you've got stats, you've got shtick, you've got skills. Next is shticks. Yes, the word is shtick. I mean, like I said, it's written in a fairly lighthearted manner for a fairly serious game. The shticks are, well, what are they? They're the cool powers. There are foo sticks, which means if you have a decent cheese score, you can buy, like, it's like in addition to having the martial arts skill, you can have kung fu powers, and you buy them on certain paths, and so you get like the cool things where you can like defy gravity, like crouching tiger, hidden dragon type level type stuff, or you could like shoot fireballs, i.e. Street Fighter characters. You can do all, or you can like do stealthy ninja things. And it's basically you're drawing on your kung fu chi in order to have powers. There's sorcery shticks, which is basically various sorcerer powers. And of course, since this is an action movie, sorcerers are not subtle creatures that do dark, dry rituals. They fly through the air and shoot electric death from their fingertips. They're action movie sorcerers. You have gun shticks. You have transformed animal shticks, according to whatever animal you are. There are Arcana Wave shticks, which is if you're one of those dudes from the future and you plug shit into yourself to give yourself abilities. They have a chance of mutating you into something horrible, and they're not really that badass. A lot of people will look down on them and say no. If you play a supernatural creature, you can choose creature shticks, stuff like that. So the game starts you off at badass skill levels, and it's expensive to buy up from there. Really, the rules encourage you to expand your character outward rather than upward. Instead of like leveling up, you level out. You gain a wider variety of powers. Stuff like that. There are a number of supplements, quite a few. Some of them are books of adventure ideas. Some of them are fleshing out various factions. If you had to buy one supplement, I would go with Golden Comeback. Golden Comeback, it gives you, well, first of all, it gives you a lot of crunch. It gives you a lot of cool abilities, like a lot of role-playing advice. There's the advice column section, which a lot of games have, and most players kind of, it's interesting reading, but you don't really need it. Then there's stat shticks. If you ever buy a stat over like 11, which is into the superhuman level, but very appropriate for an action movie character, you can buy shticks according, like you can buy a strength stat shtick or a charisma stat shtick. According whatever you buy to a superhuman level, you can buy a shtick to make it even better. You have more transformed animals that you can be. But in addition to that, you also have drive shticks. If your driving skill is high enough, you can buy drive shticks, which allows you to do cool driving things. All sorts of stuff like that. One interesting shtick is that you have the signature sticks. If you can buy a foo shtick called signature weapon, like you have a sword that was passed down to you from your father and your father's father, and it has a special name and it looks really cool, and it's protected by plot. It can never, if it's broken, you can reforge it. If it's lost, you will find it. It's part of your character. And then you also have a signature. Like the gun. If you have a gun shticks, you can also get a signature weapon for that. Like some really cool, badass engraved gun that always makes its way back to you. So when the drive sticks happened, they came up with one called the signature ride, which means you have the General Lee, or you have that badass cop car from the Blues Brothers. You're known for it, and if it breaks down, you can fix it. It's part of your legend. And It's got all, despite the seriousness of it, it does try very hard to be cinematic, right? Like there's one rule in there that says if you're using a pump action shotgun, you get a +1 to damage if you take take an action to go before firing it. In real life, this has no effect, but this is an action movie game, so doing cool action movie things is a bonus. It was one of the first games to not really penalize you for trying to be cool. If you walk into the room and say, "I shoot the bad guys," fine. If you walk into the room and say, "Well, okay, there's this food trolley here, and I leap onto the food trolley and skate across the room, shooting bad guys as I go," the rules encourage you not to penalize the person at all for that, because he's trying to be cool. The only penalties you get like a minuses if you try to go after more than one person in a single shot, like boom, 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 boom. Okay, that's fine. And because your character skill is usually high enough that you can pull off getting 2 or 3 guys. Another thing, this is one of the first games to use mook rules. The idea is, like, there are characters who are mooks. They are unnamed. The rules describe them as named and unnamed characters. And if they're unnamed, then it's like if you hit them, if you hit them below a certain level, they keep fighting. If you hit them above a certain level, they drop. They are designed to be easy to take down, and although large numbers of them can be dangerous and can take you out, they are largely designed for the characters to munch through like popcorn, because they're badasses. And it's like in the movies where the hero can like take out guy after guy after guy, but then when you hear say, "Look out, it's Mongo!" and then Mongo bursts through the door, and you realize that there's a real fight on your hand, and Mongo uses the actual rules. He has actual hit points and and he's actually a threat. I don't know how good this game will be in the long term. It's like one of those things that you might run for a one shot or for 3 or 4 sessions. If you ran it in the long term, it is possible for characters to gain access to a small Feng Shui site, and then they will start getting experience bonuses, and they'll be able to buy up their basic stats. And generally, because that's the rules. If you have one or more Feng Shui sites in your control, you will advance faster. So finding and gaining these sites is part of the game. Of course, you're not going to get the huge major ones that allow you to rule the world, at least not at first. Maybe throughout the course of the game you might. But again, it's basically the game is probably best for a single badass action-packed one-shot, or at least a series, at least like maybe a trilogy, like a small series of movies that has a build-up and a climax as you take down the big bad. You have also, it even says in there, like, if you've watched a lot of like Hong Kong style movies, you are not automatically assured of getting a happy ending. The characters can give their hearts and fight for everything and still die at the end, having achieved nothing. Pretty much just like an old school style role-playing game. So in that regard, it is a little old school. I would actually recommend getting this game. It's a lot of fun, and it's one of those that I'm putting on my list of I would like to play or run it sometime. And it actually has a lot of pre-made adventures for it, so if I were to run one in the future, it'd probably be bad, because I can at least take or adapt one of those guys. have something front-loaded and pre-made for you. That would be cool. Anyways, that's my review for the day. Talk to you later.